One, the department versus Ms. Jewel Moore. We are here today on a compliance hearing. We'll go ahead and take announcements.
Todd Alvey on behalf of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, family-based service specialist who's working this case is Sarah Gonzalez-Williams. She's present. She'll be able to give us a review.
All right, so
Ryan Turman on behalf of respondent mother. She is present. We're ready.
All right, Ms. Zavala, we've jumped over to the Moore case. We're having some problems on our first case getting the parents logged in. So I show that you are present. All right, what do we have new since the court report was filed?
So Ms. Moore has been compliant with the TFF program. She's been meeting with the FIS worker regularly. She has reported to me that she doesn't feel like she's being she's gaining any knowledge from the program or any skills. But she has been working closely with the FIS worker. We have struggled a little bit with getting her to follow through with any of the other services that we've asked of her. For instance, the counseling, individual counseling with Pace Lawson. She has no-showed two of her individual counseling appointments that she has set up. As far as the daily recovery services that we've asked her to follow through with, she has completed the intake with Lydia Daly. She is going to be doing one-on-one sessions with her for 6 weeks. She'll be doing that once a week. She did test negative on her drug screen on November 1st this month. So we've had one negative drug screen from her since this case has started. She has, met with me regularly as well for visits, but I mean, she hasn't really given me anything as far as anything tangible to say that she's actually made any progress as far as working the Texas Family First program. As far as the children go, they're doing well in the home and they're working well with the FIS worker. We were able to get them some beds with the help of one of the local churches. Miss Moore is doing well as far as meeting their needs. They look happy and healthy in her home, and everything seems to be going well with them.
Okay, Mr. Turman.
Judge, if I could just clarify with Ms. Williams. This one, sorry, I was a bit confused. You said that she was compliant, but then you kind of gave the 180 of that and went through a litany of things where she was not compliant. Is Ms. Moore overall compliant with what she's supposed to be doing?
She's overall compliant with meeting with that service provider. The FIS worker is a service provider that comes into the home and meets with her for 4 hours a week. So she's compliant with that program. But as far as the other services that she's asked to participate in, as far as the individual counseling and the drug treatment, that is taking her a while to get engaged in. So we've had to kind of push for that. But as far as like gaining any knowledge from any of these programs, there hasn't been any progress. And coming from her as well, like she has voiced that there hasn't been any progress.
Well, my understanding of your testimony was that she had voiced that she didn't feel as though she was actually gaining anything, but not necessarily that there's not been progress, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have, Judge. And Judge, I've not spoken with Ms. Moore in a bit. I don't know if there's anything that she wants to add to this, but I don't have anything else to present.
Okay, Ms. Moore, is there anything you want to talk about today?
I have seen Pace a couple of times, but due to me working overnight, like from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., I do be tired during the day because then I do have my youngest son. And then I have to pick up my 3-year-old by 11:15. So throughout them times, I do be trying to get sleep. And with Pace, we be trying to have meetings within between those times. And so, yeah, I did miss a meeting because I was tired and I was asleep. But I have reached out to him to try to reset up the meeting, and I haven't gotten a response. Yeah. Other than that, everything else, like with Miss, everybody, I've been participating with everybody else. Like everything's been going good on.
Okay, Ms. Moore, just stay on top of these appointments, and work through these things, and we'll just keep chipping away at it. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ms. Zavala.
Your Honor, I met with Miss Moore and the kids in the home. The home was appropriate. The kids looked great. We did talk a little bit about her work and sleep schedule, and I honestly don't know how she's doing it. She has about a 2 to 3 hour window in the morning where she can get a little bit of sleep. Then she has another 3 to 4 hour window in the afternoon where she can get some more sleep while the kids are in school, while still having her youngest there. And then trying to fit the counseling in those little blocks of time. I can understand why she may be struggling to get that done all the time. So I don't know what the solution is, but I don't get the feeling that it's Miss Moore blowing off the services. And it's just at some point she's got to sleep too. So I don't know honestly how we work that. But the kids looked great. The house seemed great. So I don't know what the solution is with the schedule and sleeping and.
What, has drug use been a big concern?
No, ma'am.
Then why the daily recovery?
The daily recovery was due to the concern of marijuana use. Throughout our case, she's been positive for marijuana. We did finally get this, like I said, this month we finally did get a negative drug screen. So that's why. And then Lydia Daly did say that she didn't qualify for the intensive program. So she is doing a one-on-one with Miss Moore on Thursdays for an hour. So they're doing one-on-one for 6 weeks.
Okay.
But one thing about the drug use, like every time I test, my levels go down. So I wouldn't say like it's been like, if I like, cause I'm not the type to even take anything or drink anything to make my system clean. I'm going to do it naturally. So every time I did it, the levels went down every time. And so finally my system is fully clean.
What I'm trying to figure out is if there's a way we can streamline these services so that mom just has to look to maybe one provider, and could the counselor also address substance abuse and do that as opposed to her going to these separate. I understand what Ms. Zavala is saying, and with 6 children, she's got to get some rest. She's got to get some sleep, but she also has to work. And
yes,
so,
ma'am.
Is there any way we can streamline this stuff?
Yes, ma'am. And Pace is also a counselor that deals with substance abuse, and so that would work. Also, in our the allegations that we received, it was a huge concern that she did pull out a gun where there was involved. And so that's one of the huge concerns that we had. And so that's why we were asking her to go to, counseling as well. And so that's why that was, imperative that she does follow through with counseling. And so that was, one of the main concerns, and one of the main services that we wanted to follow through with. So can we just, let's try addressing all these issues through Mr. Lawson. Yes, that would work.
Okay. All right. I want to do that. And no reflection on Ms. Daly. It's just a question of, we want mom to be successful, and overloading her I'm not sure is the answer. So let's just try to cover all these grounds with the counselor. Ms. Moore, will that help you?
That will actually help a lot.
Okay. All right. Okay. We're going to give that a try. All right, then. We're going to continue working with the family, and I find that mom is in compliance, and we'll have another compliance hearing on January 30th of 2024. That'll be on a 9 o'clock docket. So Ms. Ward, we'll just get it set up where you're going to do all this through Mr. Lawson. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Alden Biglin, this is the department. All right. Versus Sarah Burrell and Daniel Biglin. We are here for a compliance hearing today. We are conducting this through Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement of the parties. We're live streaming, and Ms. Taylor is making our record this morning.
Okay.
All right, we'll take announcements.
Todd Albee on behalf of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. I'm present and ready to proceed, Your Honor. Rachel Baca with the Family-Based Services will be the one who gives us an update.
For the mother, Sarah Burrell, we're both present ready.
Jay Michelson on behalf of Daniel Biglin, we're present and ready.
Stacey Zavala on behalf of Holden.
All right, what do we have new since the report was filed?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Biglin and Ms. Burrell, they've been doing really well. They have completed a substance abuse evaluation. They did not qualify for services. They were recommended to do the Padre program. However, the family intervention specialist is working that in with the family center treatment. So she's also doing substance abuse education with both parents. And it seems to be going really well. Parents are doing well. They have drug tested in August, September, and October. Ms. Burrell has been negative on all drug tests. Mr. Biglin has been positive at a low level for marijuana. He does state that he smokes Delta 8, which does have a small percentage of THC in it. And so that is what he says is where the positive drug test is coming from. He has not done his mental health assessment with TPC yet. He haven't called you back yet. Right. So he did.
Hang on a minute. All right, sir, just let her finish. We'll get to you. There's a court reporter that puts everything down, and she can't hear two people at once.
All right, I'm sorry.
It's all right. You'll have your chance.
Okay, so he did call to try to set up an appointment, and they were supposed to call him back, and they have not called him back yet. So that has not been completed. Other than that, they've been making really good progress. Mr. Biglin is still working. He's doing well there. They have their own home now, so that's going well. Other than that, there's been no other updates.
All right. And Holden? How's Holden?
Holden's doing really well. He's good. He's been referred for an ECI evaluation to just make sure that he's developmentally on target. That has not been done yet, but he has been referred. The last time that I spoke to them, he was supposed to go in to get his 1-year immunizations. I'm not certain if that has happened yet or not. This was last week that they said they were going to take him to get it done.
All right, Ms. Burrell, has that been done?
No, I'm waiting on his doctor to fax his SOT records to the health department so I can take him because they have to have his records. The lady is coming on the 9th at 8 o'clock in the morning to do the evaluation to make sure he's developed mentally. And Danny's appointment for the medicine, the lady's coming on Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning to do his evaluation here because we don't have a ride.
Okay.
For the TPC, right?
Yeah. She called yesterday and said that she'd be here on Thursday.
So that's my TPC.
Yeah.
That's my the thing that they said I didn't qualify. Like didn't finish it.
Yeah.
Okay, should be here what, Tuesday?
I just said Thursday.
Oh, Thursday. Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Naranjo?
I have nothing to add, Judge, other than Ms. Burrell's doing very well with her services.
All right, Mr. Michelson?
Like Mr. Anjo, I have nothing to add. Sounds like Daniel's progressing, so.
All right, and Ms. Zavala?
Your Honor, I got to meet with Sarah and Holden in the home. I've got no concerns about the home. They both looked like they were doing really good. I'm glad to hear about ECI, but he looked great. He has a great smile, and I had no concerns with that visit.
All right, sounds good. Okay, then, Ms. Burrell, Mr. Bigland, what we're going to do is kind of continue to just work with y'all, get these services completed, and just keep making the progress you're making. And I'll see you back January 23rd of 2024, and that'll be on a 9:00 docket. And hopefully, we'll be pretty wrapped up by then. Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're here today on a
thank y'all very
compliance
much.
hearing. We're conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming, and Ms. Taylor's making our record. All right, we'll take announcements.
Todd Albee on behalf of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. I'm present, ready to proceed, Your Honor. Elaine Lucero is the FBS worker who will be giving us updates.
Lorraine Lucero, on behalf of the mother, Layla Rivera, Your Honor, we're both present and ready.
Stacey Zavala on behalf of the kids, here and ready.
Jeff Hill on behalf of Josue Zamaripa, the father judge. I do not see him present. Is he with someone else on screen here that I just don't see him?
Not that I know of, Mr. Hill. There is someone logged in by phone, but that I think is Mr. Hammond's phone number. So he is not present.
No se encuentra.
Right. Okay, what do we have news since the court report was filed?
So, Lyoya and her husband have been cooperative in meeting with the FIS worker. The new one that was assigned is Alondra Mora, and she is on here today. I'm thinking she was assigned closer like to the beginning of September. And so I know that has helped quite a bit for them to have an actual Spanish speaking worker who can speak with the parents and with the children. Layla has been negative for substances during this case. We haven't had any issues with that. I do know that there is still some serious concerns with the parenting that's going on. Every time I've gone out there, I do see her to be overwhelmed and the kids to be just really out of control. They did recently move into a new home, but prior to that, when I would go out throughout the month of October, I had gotten to the home and had seen the oldest little boy, Josue Jr., locked out of the house. And she has said it's because he's aggressive with the other children. Miss Zavala did meet me out there, or I met her out there recently to visit with the family, and were able to witness that ourselves, the aggression in between the children, and then Miss Rivera not having the ability to get the kids under control and to not be hitting one another. I've spoken with Alondra, the FIS worker, about that, to see if there's any type of parenting that could be provided. There isn't any resources of that nature in Spanish here in Amarillo, and we've been trying to get them in with the counselor. We've been facing some issues with that, as well as there's not any Spanish speaking counselors in this area. From my understanding, there was one at Family Support Services, and they're now saying after the referral I made that counselor is not able to work with them, that they only do BIP. And so we're in the process of trying to find another therapist that can work with the family as a whole. It has been brought to my attention that there is a program through St. Francis. It's a 13-week program, and it is in Spanish. It's called the Parent Project. And so I have made a referral to that. I'm waiting to see whenever they're going to be able to get the parents into that program. I haven't heard anything back, but I did send an email as a follow-up to see if they can give me any idea on when that might take place. As far as Josue, he is also meeting with the FIS worker regularly. He's continued to be negative for any substances. We did refer him to NA, and initially he was attending a class here and there, but recently he's not been attending. And so I've just been encouraging him, just to continue to attend so that he can maintain sobriety. But he's, on his end, he does work a lot. And he works at a mechanic shop Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, he works for himself. working on cars. And so I do know that he's said that that's a lot of the reasoning why he's not making it to NA, but regardless, he's been able to sustain that sobriety. He's also in agreement with attending this class, the parent project. We're just waiting to see when they're going to be able to get in. I will say during this case, there was another intake. There was some concerns that the family had went to a visit with the St. Francis with the TFF worker. And while they were there, Laelia had fallen. One of the kids had moved the chair where she was going to sit down, and she had fallen to the ground. And from what was reported, she turned around and she punched one of the kids, the oldest son, Josue. And when she punched him, she hit his arm, and it also punched him in the chest. The way she explained it was that this was an accident that wasn't intentional. The way the report read was not quite it being an accident. It was investigated and it was ruled out. And so that investigation is no longer open. But there again, you know, the concerns with the parenting and you know, us being able to address them properly, it really has been an issue with the language barrier.
I thought Jennings had someone that was Spanish speaking in their office.
So I know at one point they had Bobby Brito. I don't know if there's anybody else out there. I know Bobby no longer works at Jennings. She moved over to the Bridge, but I can reach out to them and see if they may have someone else.
Okay. So let me this other intake. So is the issue there that the child may have pulled the chair out intentionally?
That's what was said when I spoke with Josue on my own. He said that he had accidentally pulled the chair. I guess from what the child told me, everybody was, and this is what the worker had said from St. Francis as well, that the family was all coming to sit down and they were trying to figure out which chairs to sit on. There's 6 people in this family, so it can get a little hectic. And one of the kids, the oldest kid, moved the chair for her, you know, to try to get around and go sit down elsewhere. So he accidentally pulled the chair, and when she went to sit down, she fell. And so I know it was an accident on his part. That's what the child is saying. That's what the workers were saying that were present. The child told me that he punched her, she punched him purposely, that was not an accident. But the way she's explaining it is that she had fallen and accidentally like went back and swung the arm and hit her. And that's not how it was explained to me. So.
Okay. All right, but I read in the report that father doesn't have as much trouble with managing the kids.
Yes. Yes, when he's around, they do listen to him, and they do show more respect for him than they do Miss Rivera, which is, you know, I do feel like that is an issue that could probably be worked out within, you know, therapy, if we can actually get them in with someone. And so, yeah, it's kind of.
So, I mean, it sounds like we need to be working with the kids just as much as we're working with parents.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right, Ms. Lucero.
Your Honor, I don't have much to add, except to state that my client said it wasn't intentional that she hit the child. The way she explained it to me is the way I guess she explained it to Ms. Lucero, but she is willing to, you know, work this program. You know, she understands she needs help with the kids. You know that there's issues with the oldest is Josue, the child with his aggression to his siblings, and so she does need help with that. And he is a child that I guess is stating he accidentally pulled the chair. So I mean, whatever help can be provided to this family, I think is, of course, will be beneficial, and she's willing to do whatever's required. But as you stated, you know, working with the kids, I believe, whether it be family therapy or maybe some kind of therapy for the kids, you know, maybe would be beneficial too. So that's kind of where we're at, Your Honor.
Yeah, sounds to me like it. Okay, Mr. Hill.
Judge, I don't have anything really to add to what's been said. So my guy, Mr. Zamaripa, I apologize for calling my guy. Mr. Zamaripa is working hard, trying to do his best, Judge.
All right, sir. And Ms. Zavala?
Your Honor, I did get a chance to go out there. I'm very appreciative for Ms. Lucero for going out and helping serve as my interpreter. The only way I can describe it is sheer chaos. Both parents, I think, want help, want to work. I want to make sure that it's clear that the aggression issue is not just the oldest child. When I was there, it was the youngest child going crazy. I mean, I am thrilled that they've been able to locate a Spanish-speaking parenting online program for them. Of course, in person would be better, but my fear, and I shared this with Ms. Lucero, is I'm not sure the kids can be calm enough for the parents to sit on the computer for an hour to do that. I mean, it's some logistics. I don't think they've got a real support system in terms of somebody to watch the kids while they're doing that. But this is definitely a family that is in need of help. It's a family that wants help. I mean, I think parents want to cooperate. I think they want to, I just don't know it. And I know Miss Lucero, turned over all kinds of rocks trying to find, Spanish speaking providers that could help them. And in this case, even the children need Spanish speakers. Sometimes we've got English speaking children and Spanish speaking parents, but everybody needs Spanish. And I don't know what we do when those resources aren't out there. But I do think everybody wants to try.
So the focus with the children needs to be behavioral therapy, obviously. I mean, we're not dealing with children that have suffered some enormous trauma that we know about. It's just things are just out of control.
Yes, there is a lot of hitting. When Stacy was there, the little one was spitting. She spit on me. She was stomping on her other sister's face, punching. I physically had to get up and separate kids and calm kids down and get them to stop crying. And it's like that almost every time we go out. So.
Okay. I don't know what to do if the department can't provide the services. I don't know where that leaves us. I mean, we're asking these folks to work with us, but if we don't have service providers, then I'm not sure what it is they're supposed to be doing.
I don't have an answer, Judge. I know that we will continue to work trying to provide services, and I'll get with Miss Lucero and Miss Moore and try to figure out where we're at.
Okay. I don't know if we've got any providers in any outlying areas that speak Spanish.
So there was a message that just came through and it said, if the children have Medicaid, occupational therapists can address behavior. They do have Medicaid, but they have, it's not Superior Medicaid. It's another Medicaid. It's, Amera, I think.
Amera Group.
Oh.
Okay, and that message obviously came from Ms. Smith. They're probably not on Superior because we don't have legal custody of the kids. So this is just a TFF case. I think let's look at that and see if there's anything that particular Medicaid can cover.
Okay.
And look to the private sector, if somebody would take the insurance.
And I know we have Green Apple in the area. And if occupational therapy can actually address behavior, then maybe we can refer them to something like that. I wasn't aware that an occupational therapist could come in and help with behavioral issues.
Let's turn the stones over.
Okay.
Because it's not going to get any better. All right, then we'll keep looking and trying to provide the family what they need and what we can. Our next hearing will be January 23rd of 2024, and that'll be on a 9:00 docket. Very frustrating.
Agreed.
It's interesting because when we go to judicial conferences, other judges and court
Yeah,
personnel
you're,
are talking
you're still
about.
live on YouTube.
Oh, I know,
Okay.
it's okay. But in the larger cities, they just have, they talk about things, and we're all like, "What's that?" I mean, the access that they have to so many things is, it's just frustrating when we really are trying to work with folks, and they're trying to work with us, and we just can't provide what they need.
And absolutely, it seemed like Elaine was trying everywhere and really trying to come up with something. And I'm glad they at least found the online program, and maybe that can at least be something.
We're here today for a status hearing. We are conducting this through Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement of the parties. We are also live streaming, and Ms. Taylor is making our record. Okay, we'll go ahead and take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Rachel Peoples is my permanency specialist. We are present, ready, Your Honor.
Bailey Sapien on behalf of Cleta Chandler. My client is present and we're ready.
PD Hammonds for father of Talia Israel Garza. We're present and ready to proceed, Judge.
Stacey Zavala on behalf of the kids.
All right, what do we have new since the court report was filed?
The kids, they have had their CANS assessment. They had that on 10/24. The kids are doing really well. But I haven't been able to get a drug screen from Miss Chandler. I've asked her to drug screen twice, but I haven't been able to get her to drug screen for me. And Mr. Garza has drug screened for me twice, and they were both negative. So.
Okay. Family plans, everybody's reviewed, signed?
Yes, both mom and dad signed their family plans, and they've been given a copy, and we've gone over it. So,
all right, good. All right, Ms. Sapien.
And Judge, those signatures for those two family plans were filed on 11/2.
All right. Okay, Ms. Sapien.
I don't have anything, Judge, except I was not aware that my client had it drug screened, so I will talk with her about what's going on.
Okay. All right, and Mr. Hammonds.
Judge, if I could just ask Ms. Peoples a few questions, just kind of lay the groundwork of what our position is going to be.
Sure.
Ms. Peoples, when Talia was removed from Ocleta, Israel was not involved with that removal. Is that correct?
I believe so.
I mean, Talia was removed because Ocleta was dirty for some sort of controlled substance when Talia was born.
Yes, cocaine.
Okay. And in the meantime, I mean, have you been out and visited with Mr. Garza at his home?
I have.
Does it seem to be appropriate?
It does, yes.
Does he actually have a couple extra bedrooms, even if the judge would consider placing the Donald children with Mr. Garza?
He does. He has a 3-bedroom house.
And was it your understanding that Ocleta and Israel were together for several years, and he was involved in Xavion and Adia's lives and helping to raise them before Talia was born?
Yes.
Have you had any contact with Darnell Donald, the father of the two of those kids?
I have not been able to contact him.
Is it your understanding he's in Amarillo?
Yes.
Has Mr. Garza been visiting with Talia every chance he gets?
Yes.
And is it your understanding Mr. Garza is employed?
Yes.
And he has transportation?
Yes.
He has a child seat?
Yes.
Have you also discovered that Mr. Garza has family members who just live a few blocks from him that will be helping him and support him in taking care of Talia?
Yes.
Have you been able to run any background checks on them? Have any concerns been raised?
I have ran background checks on them. There's a couple concerns with his sister lives with his mom and her boyfriend, and Israel's mom has she got a DWI in June, and that would be kind of concerning as a backup caregiver.
But if his sister Kayla was able to help with Talia, Kayla is a stay-at-home mom and also has a couple kids of her own.
Yes.
I mean, were there any concerns about her?
I did not see any concerns.
I mean, at this moment, is there anything that is preventing you placing Talia with her father, Israel?
I don't have any major concerns. Israel he's got a job, he's got a driver's license, he has a house, he has good transportation. He's drug screened twice and they were both negative.
And has he even mentioned to you that he would like to keep the siblings together? He loves the two older children like a father. Yes. Is there any concerns with the department placing them with him as fictive kin?
I don't have any concerns. I think it would be a lot placing all the kids with him here soon. That's just a lot for him, but no major concerns with Israel.
Well, and I mean, I understand it would be a lot for me to take care of 3 young children, but the reality of it is single parents do that all the time, correct?
Right.
And in fact, I mean, he and Oclita were taking care of all 3 of the kids until this incident, correct?
Yes, they were.
Had they had any contact with your department before Talia's birth?
No.
Oh. All right. I have no further questions, Judge.
Mr. Hammonds, is it your client's wish to be placement for all 3? I mean, is that what I'm hearing? I mean, obviously he wants to be placement of his child, his daughter, but I want to just make sure he's asking for placement of all the children.
He is, Judge.
Okay. Where are the children placed together right now?
No, they're not.
Are the 2 older ones together?
They are, yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, I'm not going to jump the gun and spoil Ms. Zavala's role today, so I want to hear from Ms. Zavala.
Your Honor, it sounds like if we can get kind of more information on exactly where Talia will be while Dad is working, it's sounding like that may be a good working solution for Talia. I'm not necessarily opposed to placement of all 3, but I think we need a little more information.
The home study?
Yes, I think that would be great. I have been able to meet multiple times with the older kids. I did not address that possibility with them because I didn't realize that was on the horizon. So I, haven't been able to explore that. I will second that these are very active kids. And so it's a lot, but maybe it's a situation where if we can make sure Talia is covered and she gets moved in and that's going well, that we can look at a home study and look at all 3 kids. I am hesitant to just jump right in and say, let's move all 3 right now without further information. But it sounds like it could be a workable possibility in the future if all the parts can come together.
So, Mr. Garza, what we're talking about is, I mean, I'm very inclined to go ahead and place Talia with you now. We could initiate a home study. I mean, she can be placed there now. She's your child. You weren't involved in the reasons for removal. Nobody has told me the pivotal thing that I have to ask today, which is would there be any continuing or ongoing danger to return your child to your home? Nobody's told me that at all, quite to the contrary. So I'll just tell you, I mean, we're going to go ahead and place Talia with you right now.
Thank you.
Now, the other two children, since they aren't your biological children, and I understand you have a close relationship. I mean, I could do that. I think everybody's just saying, well, we kind of want to know a little more about, all right, what's the plan, you know, in place for them. I mean, one for sure is school age. The other one is probably pre-K age, or you know, eligible for Head Start.
They are both in school.
Yeah. Okay. You know, so a home study on you would give us a lot more information about that. And when we're talking about, you know, 3 children versus 1, you know, it just, you know, your day just requires more planning. So
yeah.
Not saying you're not capable of it, but it gives us some more information about, okay, who else is going to be in the kids' lives, who exactly is going to be the provider, the caregiver, you know, and so we can get all the necessary information we need. So are you willing to do that, and you and your family provide us that information?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Chandler, I saw your chat. I mean, you appear to be very much in favor of this.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you know, I think it makes absolute sense to check it out. But I'd rather have the home study when it comes to the other 2 children. Just number one, because they're older, they've got different needs than the baby, and let's just be sure we've got, you know, a good plan in place.
Okay. Judge, can I ask Mr. Garza a few questions?
Sure.
Mr. Garza, I know your attorney asked you, y'all, or mentioned y'all have a couple of extra rooms in your house. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you already set up with I know Talia is 3 months old, with crib and all the stuff for a baby to come into the home?
Yes, my crib is at my sister's house down the street. I just got to go get it.
Okay. And do you live by yourself?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But do you have all the other bottles, formula, everything else set up for a baby to come into the home?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Judge.
Okay. And Mr. Garza, I mean, when they bring Talia, just, you know, have all that stuff in place, because they're going to be looking around for it.
Yes, ma'am. I sure will.
Okay. All right, then I want to order an expedited home study on Mr. Garza for placement of the 2 older children. And we'll go ahead and place Talia with him as soon as that's, you know, feasible. That Mr. Garza, that could be, you know, tomorrow. Give you a little time to go get the crib and that kind of stuff. But the permanency specialist, Ms. Peoples, will coordinate all that with you.
Yes, ma'am.
I am going to make a finding that there would be a continuing and ongoing danger to return the children to their mother at this point in time, based on the fact that she's not drug screened for us. That gives me obviously cause for concern. I know Ms. Sapien's going to have that discussion with her, but it is a problem. So Ms. Chandler, you do need to go drug screen. It's a presumed positive if you don't go. So, you know, that's the basis I'm working on, is that you would still be testing positive. So,
and
you know,
Judge, we go ahead and ask that she be ordered to drug screen today.
Yeah. I'm going to order you to go today.
Okay.
And I'm going to order you to do a hair and a UA. So we've got a basis to see, are those things coming, you know, are the levels coming down, you know, and then, you know, if you need any kind of, you know, inpatient type help, then now's the time to do it. You know, no better time than right now. But, you know, I'll let you think about that and discuss that with your attorney. All right.
Judge, I'm sorry, may I ask a couple more questions real quick?
Sure.
Mr. Garza, I know you and Ms. Chandler for the most part, I don't know what your relationship is now, but y'all get along fairly well. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you do understand when the baby is placed back with you, mom's visits are still, she can't just come over. And you understand that you have to notify Miss Peoples and them if mom shows up, and that her visits are set through the department. You understand that, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank
sir.
Okay, and let me just do what I usually, I'm going to tell you and Miss Chandler the same thing I tell parents all the time. Miss Chandler, don't you put him in that position. And Mr. Garza, you can't give in if she does. So, you know, because if y'all don't play by the rules, you know what happens? Then we have to move the kids somewhere else. You know, and we don't want to do that. And you know, my hope is that we will get all three children placed there with Mr. Garza and that they can be together. But you know, if y'all bend the rules and then these folks find out about it, then they come to me and they say they're not following the rules. We can't trust that Mr. Garza is going to be protective of the children, and we can't trust that Ms. Chandler's not going to bug him about it and not just show up. And you know, so just don't do it. It's just easier to follow the rules. Okay. All right, then. We're going to continue the department as temporary managing conservator. We're going to continue placement of the older two children, move Talia as soon as possible to her father's home, and we'll do the expedited home study. Ms. Chandler, you go drug screen before 4 p.m. today. And I also will make a finding that the department continues to use reasonable efforts to reunify the family, and we've made some headway in that direction today. So I'll see you all back for your next hearing on March 5th of 2024. That's on a 9 o'clock docket. Service plans are important. I'm going to order those as an order of the court today. So those are like any court order. I expect you to abide by those. Failure to work your services can mean the kids don't go home, and it can mean termination of parental rights. So, you know, I have to tell you all this. I have to make sure you understand that the services are very important, and if you don't do them, there are some pretty bad consequences. Okay, so everybody understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, can I ask Miss Chandler, do you have transportation to get to a drug screen today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Be there way in advance of 4 because that's their cutoff. So, okay, I'll see y'all back in March. Good luck to everybody.
And Judge, may I just say, Ms. Peoples, get in touch with Mr. Garza, kind of play out when he can get the crib and everything set up so that we don't move the baby in too quick. Let him get ready and make sure he's got his extra caretakers lined up before we start throwing that stone on them. Okay.
Yeah, we want to make a smooth transition. And if the expedited home study comes back and it's approved, we can go ahead and move the other kids. Y'all don't need to wait for my blessing. We can go ahead and take care of it. Okay.
All right.
Thank you all so very much. We're conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming, and Ms. Taylor's making our record. All right, we'll take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Nerty and Graney is my permanency specialist, and she is present. We are present ready on.
Casey Zavala on behalf of Summer here and ready.
All right. Have we had any contact with the parents?
Yes, Judge. Last night, I actually talked to both Autumn and Trevor, and they asked about the court today. So I explained to them and sent the link through their cell phone. And they told me that they wanted to be online today for the court, but I don't know. I haven't heard this morning from them again.
Okay. If I'm not mistaken, I think I saw Mr. Enlow logged in at one point. He was in the waiting room, but he is no longer there. So can you tell me, are parents together? Are they working? What do we know?
The parents are both not in contact with me. And it's every time I try to text them and they never reply back. They did not give me any address, and they are actually hotel hoppers from hotel to hotel. Last month, Mr. Trevor sent a text message to me asking to pay for rent. I thought the last time we talked through the text message, he told me that he's working with a friend, but he could not provide any proof that he's working. And also Miss Autumn, last night she told me that she might have to have a surgery, but she did not tell me what condition that she has right now.
All right, and neither has gone over their service plan or
No, ma'am. No.
signed. Okay. All right, and do you know, have they both been given the paperwork to request a court-appointed attorney?
Yes.
Okay. And Miss Katie, have we seen any of that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And so, Ms. Ongrani, have you received that back from either parent?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. All right, Ms. Zavala?
Sorry, couldn't find the unmute. Summer is doing well in a foster placement in the general Lubbock area. And I've got no concerns about that placement, and I recommend that continue.
And Judge, since there really hasn't been much contact, we would also go ahead and ask order drug screens due to the nature of this case.
All right, then at this time, I'm going to order the service plans as an order of the court today. I will order parents to drug test as soon as contact can be made with them. We'll say hair and UA. I find that there's an ongoing and continuing danger to the child to return the child home at this point in time, and that the department is using reasonable efforts to work with the parents and attempt to reunify, but that parents have had very little contact, have not initiated any services, have not gone over their service plan or signed at this time. So we'll continue. The department is temporary managing conservator. We'll continue placement, and our next hearing is scheduled for March 5th of 2024, and that'll be on a 9 o'clock docket. We are here today on each of these cases for our initial permanency hearings, and we are conducting these through Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement of the parties. We're live streaming, and Ms. Taylor is making our record. All right, we'll go ahead and take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Heidi Combs is my permanency specialist today. We're present, ready, and Your Honor, since children are present, I would make a motion to go off of YouTube.
All right, maybe we got a lot of folks. Ms. Archer is present on behalf of the mother, Chantel Dean, and Mr. Hill is present representing the father of the Lewis children, Mr. Lewis, Steve Lewis. He is not present.
Judge, I'm working with his mother right now. I'm trying to get them to be able to get in. She always has a little difficulty trying to get logged in, so I'm going to mute and get back with them again.
She's logging in right now.
Okay, great.
All right, so hopefully Mr. Lewis will be present with us here in just a second. All right, and then Mr. Barfield is present today on behalf of Jordan Barnes, the father of the alleged father of Case and Chemistry. I do not see Mr. Barnes logged in.
Judge, I just talked to him. He's in Potter County. He had a parole violation. He should be or probation, not parole. Probation violation. He's going to be incarcerated. He should be released this month. I did speak with him right before the hearing, and so we're ready to proceed.
Okay. And Ms. Zavala is present on behalf of all of the children. All right, and we've got Mr. Lewis with us now. So, all right, what do we have new since the court report was filed?
Your Honor,
YouTube.
Yeah, sorry.
Any objections? Any objections to going off YouTube? On a review hearing.
No, ma'am.
We're conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming, and Ms. Taylor's making our record. All right, we'll take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Amy Prater is my permanency specialist. We're present, ready, Your Honor.
Vince Nowak for Israel Renia Jr. I am present, Judge, but I have had zero meaningful contact with my client.
Stacy Grant, present on behalf of Mother Adrienne Martinez. My client is present in this hearing and we're ready.
Stacy Zabala on behalf of Xerxes.
All right, so what do we have since the court report was filed?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Martinez has secured her driver's license. Right now, her car is in the shop. She is listed as a driver on a friend's insurance and is driving a friend's car at the moment. She did receive an appointment from her psychiatrist at the moment and is taking medication for her mental health. At this time, she isn't attending AA or NA meetings, though.
And where does she stand on her other services?
She's completed counseling. More therapy was recommended by her therapist. To my knowledge, she hasn't had time to attend those.
All right. And what about housing, job?
She did move into a 2-bedroom apartment that is appropriate for her and Xerxes, and she is still currently working.
Okay. All right, and so it sounds like she is in compliance. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, what about Mr. Reyna?
I have not had contact with him.
Okay, anything else to report about Xerxes?
No, Your Honor. He did have caps placed on 4 of his teeth. We are under the monitoring of a dentist right now. So we are getting that taken care of. Other than that, he is attending school and doing very well. He's a very bright child. And St. Francis recently has approved and Ms. Martinez has signed a reunification plan.
Okay.
And Judge, in regards to that, Ms. Hartwell's here also. Wanted her to give an update. I think she met with Mom recently, as far as possible a few concerns coming into that reunification situation.
Okay, sure. Ms. Hartwell.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
I just went to her home yesterday. Her daughter Skylina was there. I don't believe that her daughter is actually living in the home, but her daughter did have socks and a sweatshirt on that had marijuana leaves on it. That was the number one thing. I asked her, we had met with her about 3 weeks, a month ago, and asked her about her recovery. Recovery is huge right now, especially for her, especially with the mental health issues. And so she hasn't been attending meetings. She's told me that twice now. As far as I know, we haven't gotten any drug screen that is positive, but that is a huge deal.
Your Honor, I know this isn't sworn testimony, but in protection of my client, I'm going to have to object to talk of drug screen results or anything like that at this time, and ask that we just limit it to concern-based issues only.
Yes. Forgive
Okay.
me, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Hartwell, yeah, I just stick to your observations and your conversations and.
There just hasn't been a whole lot of program worked on her end, if you will. And as a certified recovery mentor is something I'm very familiar with. It's very important that she do that. And she hadn't been. As a matter of fact, yesterday she was attending the Beehive. I think she told me that her sponsor was a lady that was actually kind of a, I don't know, overseer there, if you will. She told me yesterday that she's no longer going there. She's going to start going to New Beginnings. So I just, I don't know.
On that ground, Ms. Harwell, are you saying you're concerned about stability in a recovery program by changing?
Absolutely.
Okay, then be interested in the reasons why she switched. And maybe she can shed some light on that. Mr. Nowak? Any?
No questions, Judge, and no insight on your last observation.
All right. So Ms. Martinez, did you switch programs?
To be honest with you, ma'am, like, there's a lot of things that they've been asking me to be doing. So there's a lot of, so for Xerxes coming home and everything, there's a lot of people that do go to New Beginnings that they say, like, people that can be around Xerxes that have CPS cases. So, I mean, there's a lot of contradicting that they've been doing, that saying, you know, like, that have CPS cases that can't be around Xerxes. Everybody that's in recovery have, you know, CPS cases that are before or after. So, I mean, it's a lot of contradicting that they've been doing, you know, like, that they say that people can be around Xerxes, like, so it's a lot of contradicting. So, I mean, I've switched programs, but I mean, I'm not going to New Beginnings, I'm going to Southwest, and a lot of my work schedule, I have to be working around. So I haven't been going to programs, but lately I've been working 11 to 9 shifts. That way, whenever Xerxes does come home, I can go to programs. So my program is going to start this coming up week. That way I work 11 to 5 shifts, so I can start going to programs. And I did explain that to her when she came to visit me.
Okay, so for my clarification, then, your intent is to start a program with who?
Southwest.
Southwest.
It's a NA and AA program.
Okay. All right. So it's AANA group. Okay.
Yes.
All right. You understand that's really important when you're in recovery.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And Judge, if I could ask Ms. Prater a question to try to clear up some of the confusion with Ms. Martinez.
Sure.
Yes, one of the friends that Ms. Martinez met at her last AANA group, Ms. Martinez gave me his information as a possible caregiver for Xerxes, and unfortunately we can't approve that because of his criminal history.
Right.
And that's in regards to people from recovery that she is asked to not be around, or not to be around Xerxes. That's what she's talking about.
Yes.
Your Honor, just to simplify, the change in recovery program is a result of the befriending and support group that
Stacey, hang on. You were cutting in and out.
Okay. Is that better, Judge? Let me reposition.
Start your sentence over.
Okay. Judge, I think that some of the friendships that she made in the recovery she was in are people that cannot assist her with Xerxes due to their backgrounds. And you run into that, obviously, in recovery, you run into other people with backgrounds. And so she's switching programs, and she's being asked fairly and by her agreement not to be around people that have backgrounds that are not appropriate for Xerxes. So starting over at a new program is probably a good thing in that regard, because she can manage those new relationships a little better and not become close friends or bring into her support system necessarily any of the people from the new recovery that might have any contact with Xerxes. And so the department has asked her, you know, don't have Xerxes around any of the people that you've met in recovery that we cannot approve due to their backgrounds. And so that resulted in some changes, but that was a portion of what fed into the changes. It's not the sum total of the reason, but that's what we mean when we talk about people that can't be around Xerxes, I believe.
Okay. And that may make sense. So, all right. I think the main thing is she's involved in one and going.
Correct.
So, okay. All right. We'll give it a try. All right. Miss Hartwell, any other concerns in the home? I mean, and I didn't get the impression that we're talking about reunification, you know, like tomorrow or anything, but anything else you observed or have any conversations with mom or anything like that?
I mean, none that I don't know is going to be cured. Right now, I think she's driving a car that she said was a friend of hers. Did not say she met him in recovery. I'm not really sure how she knows him, but he's helping her right now, and he has a pretty extensive criminal history. And I think that was Amy. Was that the one that she had asked for a backup caregiver? I mean, that's my only concern, is that she's driving his car and could potentially, you know, be dating.
What have we sat down with mom and tried to identify what her support system is?
Yes. And she doesn't have a very big one.
Okay. Have we had any constructive suggestions on where she might develop a better support system?
Not necessarily. I think right now her main focus is work. When I talk to her about different things, the importance of putting recovery first, right now she really just wants to work as much as she absolutely can. And I've tried to express to her that that's great. That's wonderful that she's thinking ahead and she's trying to, you know, have some money saved and things, but there has to be outside resources that she can, you know, draw from. And I just, yeah, there's not a whole lot there.
Well, I think we continue to focus on that and try to help her develop, you know, some additional support.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Your Honor, for as far as the reunification plan, I don't think it's been filed yet, but Ms. Prater can kind of give you the timeline of what we're looking at on that, if she will.
Yes, Your Honor. We are planning to do an 8-hour unsupervised visit this Saturday with Xerxes. The weekend after, the 17th through the 20th, is his birthday weekend. So we're asking that he has a overnight weekend visit with mom that weekend. And if everything goes smoothly and according to plan, we are planning to reunify Xerxes on November 20th, just in time for Thanksgiving.
Okay, let me just ask Ms. Martinez, just I'm going to ask you straight up, are you dating this guy whose car you're using?
We're not dating. I mean, I don't have time for dating. I work a lot. Like, I work up to 47 hours. He is helping me a lot. It's not dating. Like I told Miss Amy, I don't have time for dating. I honestly don't, but he does help me a lot.
Have you known him for a long time?
I've known him since I was like 14. I mean, he's a longtime friend, but I mean, dating, no.
All right. Well, you understand that in these initial phases of getting Xerxes back home, I mean, it's critically important that you are very aware of who is in or out of your home.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, then, Ms. Zavala.
So I think I've got some clarification questions. Somebody was talking about Skylina being there. It's my understanding that he was removed from a previous placement because she was living there and that she should not be around. So I want to get some clarification on how much she's in the home, if she's living there, what that situation is.
So with my daughter, I was trying to spend so much time with her. That way, whenever I get Xerxes, my sister has her. So, I mean, she is my daughter. I was trying to get some time with her. That way, when my son gets home, I can worry about my son. She is my daughter. I was trying to get some time with her. I don't hide nothing from CPS. I'm very honest with myself and with everybody else. I don't like to hide nothing. I don't like to lie. I'm not very good at it when it comes to it. So, I mean, I'm a very honest person when it comes to
that. We have had some meetings in terms of reunification, and that was my understanding in terms of the timeline. I am a little concerned now about making sure we've got caregivers in place. With Ms. Martinez saying that she's working 47 hours, I'm not sure that the timeline that was initially set up will work. I do agree that we may need a longer kind of monitoring period in this case. And so at some point, we need to get Xerxes back in the home to see how that's working. But I am not sure that the timeline that was set out a few weeks ago may be exactly appropriate at this point. I just want to make sure with Ms. Martinez working 47 hours a week and no caregivers identified, that we've got a plan in place in terms of getting him to school, things like that. But I know things are kind of changing, and we were having meetings on trying to get that reunification done. I still think we need to head towards reunification so we can have that extended monitoring time. But I just want to make sure we've got that schedule pinned down for him first.
I concur. So I just want, Ms. Prater, I just want you all to be sure we've got all our I's dotted and our T's crossed. So, okay.
Judge, looks like Ms. Martinez wanted to say something.
Yes, ma'am.
My manager, he works with me on my schedule. The reason I'm working so many hours is so when Xerxes comes home, my schedule switches from Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and I'm off on weekends. That way that I can have him. I have school hours, and then Saturdays and Sundays I'm off. That way I can have my son. So, I mean, my boss was working through me with my schedule, so that way when my son comes home, I can be full aware that I am with my son at all times. So, I mean, my schedule is going to switch with him whenever he comes home. My boss is my support system, him and his wife and his other 2 kids that work with me. I mean, I have a full support system when it comes to my boss. He supports me on my sobriety, and I mean, he knows my back history as well. I mean, so my schedule is going to change once my son comes home. He switched my schedule that way I could be at home. Like when my schedule changes with my visitation, he switches my schedules automatically with whatever I work with y'all. Like he works with my schedule with CPS.
Okay, that's good.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, may I make a suggestion that perhaps we need to schedule a short family group conference for all of us to get together on a conference and maybe reevaluate the reunification schedule and change some timelines and look at that again before it's filed with the court?
I'm good with that. Just to make sure, like I said, let's just make sure we've got the I's dotted and T's crossed, and then move forward. But
thank you.
If everybody can do that, I think that would be a good. I think it's a good idea. Okay. All right, then I will find today that we're not quite ready to reunify, but we're certainly headed in that direction. Mom's, I think, in compliance. We'll find that until we know all these little details that there, potentially could be an ongoing danger to send the child home. Now, that being said, I think we're very close to that. So, I find the department's continuing to use reasonable efforts to reunify the family. And like I said, I think we're very close to that and headed in the right direction. I will continue the department temporary managing conservator and continue placement. And we are set for our final hearing on January 9th of 2024. That's on a 9 o'clock docket. So hopefully everything will go real well between now and then. And we'll see how things are going, Patrick. Okay. And we are here today setting our adversary hearing. We are conducting this through Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement of the parties. We are also live streaming, and Ms. Taylor is making our record. We'll go ahead and take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. We are present and ready, Your Honor.
Stacey Grant, on behalf of the mother, Lorna Kirkpatrick. My client is present. There's another person in the room with my client, Your Honor. That would be her mother, who is here as a witness in case anyone needs to know who the other person is.
All right, thank you.
Vince Nowak on behalf of Duncan Kirkpatrick, the father. And I am present, Judge, and my client is present, and his mom and dad are with him as well. Thank you.
Your Honor, I apologize. Is Elaine Lucero in the waiting room? And Kelsey Moore? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought they were already in the room. I didn't realize till just now that they're. Thank you.
Stacey Zavallo on behalf of the kids. Duncan, who goes by Cope, and crew.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Trout, how many witnesses do you have today?
Well, in Your Honor, I believe as far as TMC, the department, and working services, the parties are in agreement. I believe Mr. Nowak has an issue that he wants to bring up, but from what I've talked to Mr. Nowak and Ms. Grant, parents are in agreement to TMC and services in this case, as far as the adversarial part.
Okay. All right. Then we have placement problem, or
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Nowak wants to talk about placement issue.
All right. Do you want to just outline it for me, or we can do this through testimony, or you want to just outline what the problem is?
Daniel, why don't you go ahead and outline it?
Your Honor, we had, so when the children were originally removed, they were placed with a kinship. They were placed with Mr. Kirkpatrick's father, the grandfather of the kids. We found out yesterday that grandparents were allowing dad around the children. They've been on a trip together. Dad's taking photos, sending them to mom. So there's a lot of unsupervised contact that was not approved, kind of going around doing things that we have told them not to do. Mr. Kirkpatrick was aware that he was not supposed to be doing these things. And so the kids were removed yesterday from the grandparents' home and placed in foster care due to that situation. This was a case where dad was positive for fentanyl. So we asked for dad to move out of the home. We'd keep the kids with the grandparents if he would agree to do that for the safety of the kids due to the drugs that he is using. And then within just, very short while, they were going around visiting with the kids, being around the kids constantly. So that is the issue I believe Mr. Nowak is wanting to ask for placement with the grandparents. We would be opposed to that if that's what he's asking. After my conversation with Ms. Grant, I think she's kind of on our side of that not to have placement with the grandparents at this time. I've not discussed this with Ms. Zavala. This is just kind of a new issue that just came up in our meetings. But that is what the situation is.
And Your Honor, just to expand on the placement issue, Mr. Trout is correct that the mother does object at this point to placement with the paternal grandparents due to non-protective behaviors. And the mother is currently, Your Honor, in Oklahoma. She does not have a Texas support system here, but she's getting her things together. She's getting her situation together in Oklahoma. We do have relatives in Oklahoma that are willing to be placement. However, we do get in, obviously, to the ICPC issues and stuff at that point. So that can't be an option today. However, I do have family members from Oklahoma, that large family, who are willing to locate themselves in Texas to become placement and submit to a home study.
Who would that be, Ms. Grant?
That would be the maternal grandmother who's present with the mother. She has a job that she can relocate to Amarillo should she need to. So we're asking that the children remain in foster placement today and that a home study be done on the maternal grandmother. And should that require it, due to ICPC, should that require relocation? Obviously, we wouldn't want that home study to commence until she relocated to an in-Texas residence. But it's rare, Judge, that I recommend to clients that foster placement is the better choice. But after talking to Ms. Kirkpatrick, she's certain that the father will continue to have access to the children if placement remains with the paternal grandparents, as he tends to reside in their home on a regular basis.
And children are they placed in Amarillo right now?
No, Judge.
Lubbock.
Lubbock, yeah.
Lubbock. Are they together?
Yes,
yes.
Okay. All right, Ms. Zavala, what's your position?
I was pretty devastated when I heard last night that they were being moved. I know, Crew's little, but Cope was very comfortable there, and it made me extremely sad. But I don't know if we can't follow the rules, we can't follow the rules. And fentanyl is incredibly dangerous to the kids, and it feels like everybody's been over backwards to work with this family, and it breaks my heart for the kids. But I don't know what to do in terms of keeping them there if the rules can't be followed.
Well, I too am very sorry to hear that. Extremely sorry. Because when I signed the order for protection in this case, I was relieved to know that the children were going to be with family. So huge disappointment to the court. Folks, my job, my one and only job here is to protect the children. So I'm not going to return the children to grandfather's home right now. If maternal grandmother chooses to relocate, I mean, obviously I can't order her to do that. And, you know, if she chooses to relocate and then wants a home study initiated, we will certainly do that. I'm not going to say never, that I won't ever entertain the idea of the children being placed back, you know, with the paternal grandparents, but I don't feel good about that right now. I'm confident that this was explained to you all. I'm confident that you were cautioned and warned that he was not to have any unsupervised contact. And you know, not that probably Crew, being an infant, would have, you know, the ability or the access to get into something, but boy, a 5-year-old sure does. And all it would take is, you know, one terrible accident. And we all know what the outcome of that would likely be. You know, nobody wants to talk about it, but, you know, that's my job, is sometimes to make the hard decisions, and I don't want to see you all going and picking out coffins. You get my drift?
Absolutely, Judge. Absolutely. And just one minor correction. You said 5 years old. Cope turned 6 today. So
Okay.
Happy birthday to that young man.
Absolutely. And I wish you celebrating with the family.
And I know that the court is running late, and I don't know if this is my time to talk or not, but I would like Clifton Kirkpatrick just to talk for a little bit if we have time, Judge. If we don't, I understand that we're running really, really late. I get that.
Yeah, that's not, that is, it's more important that we're talking about these children and their safety. I mean, my docket, it's just what it is. So, you know, but, you know, I'll just tell you, I mean, I'm fine for him to address the court, but I'm not going to change my decision on that, Mr. Nowak.
I understand that, Judge, but I think you said that you're not going to rule it out as an option in the future. And I'd like to have him give the opportunity, just 2 minutes worth of what happened and why. And if that's something the court wants to hear, that's fine. If not, I understand.
I'll give him just a very brief amount of time. Sure.
Clifton Kirkpatrick, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. You let your son around the kiddos, correct?
That's correct.
You knew that was wrong, correct?
Yes, sir.
Why'd you do it?
Quite honestly, this thing hit us, you know, like a brick wall. And I really wasn't quite, neither of us were quite ready to all of a sudden have these hard, fast rules. And we tried to set up visits and we're unable to set it. We actually were able to set
Hey, Cliff, let me stop you right quick. I mean, you understand that there's hard, fast rules to protect, cope, and prove, correct?
Right. And
let me finish.
Sure.
And you violated those rules, correct?
That's correct.
I mean, like right out of the box, correct?
Correct.
Do you understand that in the future, I'm going to advocate for the kids to be placed with you? You understand that, correct?
Yes, sir.
You need to do better, right?
Absolutely. I understand. I understand where we are now.
Okay. And Clifton, thank you so much. Judge, they made a horrible mistake right out of the box. And I get it. I mean, it's fentanyl. Believe me, I get it. It's horrible. So I understand that the court is not going to place the kids back with Clifton today, but I just wanted the court to hear from him a little bit for future hearings. Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand that sometimes when you are faced with choosing between your child and grandchildren, you know, I mean, he is your son. I get it. I mean, I can't say that we all have, but I will just say I've been in a position to have to exercise tough love before. It's very difficult. and I get that, but he's a grown-up and your grandchildren aren't. So therein lies the difference, and you know, therein lies the choice that you may have to make at some point in time. And you know, I hope you don't. I hope that the parents will get on the right track, take this seriously, you know, both get whatever professional intervention they need, you know, get clean, get stable, and hopefully you won't ever have to make that choice between your son and your grandchildren. But, you know, I'm just telling you what you're asking me to do potentially down the road could mean you have to make that choice.
Yes,
So,
ma'am. I'd be willing to make that choice in favor of my grandchildren because they are not adults. My son is an adult.
So I suggest you guys take this time and then you can have whatever discussions you need to have about it. But, you know, I'm being straight with you that may be a decision that has to be made at some point in time. It doesn't today because I'm not going to place the kids back there. As much as I hate that, as much as I loathe the idea that we had a good, you know, loving household with family members, you know, in place. And now we are with strangers, you know, not saying that they aren't going to be safe and they're not in a good home, but it's still, they're strangers. So,
Your Honor, on behalf of the mother, could we add in just an additional item? I do not want today to complicate potential placements for these parents with appropriate grandparents on either side of the equation of this case. And so the mother is also concerned for Mr. Kirkpatrick's safety and survival from a fentanyl issue. And so we don't bring our objection to placement with the paternal grandparents easily, and we don't bring that objection in judgment, but in concern that these children could also witness a catastrophic event with their father if we do not all engage strictly and immediately with what is being asked, not only in protection of the children as our paramount concern, but in defense of Mr. Kirkpatrick's life at this point. He could not be with us, and none of us want that. And by following these rules and being so strict with these rules, we save these children's father, which is the best thing for these children.
Well said. All right, then.
Your Honor, can I give a real quick update just on the children?
Yes.
I was notified a while ago when the children were removed last night. They were both kind of sick. I believe they both have ear infections and strep right now.
Okay.
So they are on, my understanding, they're on antibiotics. Is that right, Ms. Watson?
Yes, sir, they are.
Okay. So they did get checked out and they do have those issues, but just so the parents know that is what's going on with them right now.
Okay.
We can also, as far as what Ms. Grant was saying with maternal grandmother, we can start an ICPC right away, or if she wants to consider the move, just let us know where she's going. Once she gets settled, we can start working on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, folks, it's important, you know, these ICPCs that we are required by law to do. I can't, you know, maternal grandmother could be my best friend and I might have known her for 60 years, but I can't place a child outside of the state within an ICPC home study. So they can take 6 months, 9 months. I mean, you know, it's out of our control. So just so you know what kind of time frame, if you want to stay in Oklahoma and initiate an ICPC, you could be looking at 6 months or 9 months. So, you know, again, that's just going to be a decision maternal grandmother's going to need to make. So I think we'll give her an opportunity to digest that and then make that decision, and then she can notify the department one way or the other. I'm fine with it doing the ICPC. It's not that. But I don't see any point in initiating it if she is going to relocate.
Yes, ma'am. And me saying that was more for Ms. Kirkpatrick and her mother, just so they know where we stand. They just have to let us know which direction they're going.
Okay. Prior to the hearing, I was able to speak with them at length over the phone and explain the difference between an in-state placement versus the complications of the ICPC requirements. And they will get together as a family and discuss that. And
And I would love to see at some point if both sets of grandparents could work together for the betterment of the placement of these children and for the lives of their own children at this point. And I'm willing to think out of the box, Mr. Nowak. And if you'd like to contact me, I'm more than willing for everyone in the family to work together to protect children and to get the services done and do what needs to be done.
Excellent, Stacy. Thank you so much for that. And before we all leave, is there a visitation schedule in place?
Well, there was.
I'm sorry, Cliff. That was more, I think, for the caseworkers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
That's okay.
Miss Watson, do you know what we're looking at right now on that?
The visit that was scheduled was canceled due to the emergency removal. The new worker on the case will have that set up within a week to when the visits will be, and they'll be supervised here in Amarillo. We'll bring the children up for those visits so that they can be monitored at our visitation house.
Tippy, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And Tippy, the worker's gonna be Mickey?
Yes.
Okay, so Vince and Stacy, Mickey Lane will be reaching out to your people and getting all that set up.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Daniel.
And Vince, as to visitation and Your Honor, as to visitation with the mother, because she is having to work and reside in Oklahoma for her best interest right now, she's going to be able to be physically present for every other visit, but would be requesting some type of virtual just viewing, or, you can't do a virtual visit with a 6-month-old, but you can see them on the screen and you can talk to them and they can hear your voice, and you can, and so something like that virtually on every other visit is what she would be requesting.
Yeah, and I have no problem with that. That shouldn't be any issue.
And Judge, I do have, as far as visitations, I do have a couple questions for Mr. Kirkpatrick real quick.
Sure.
And to see where we need to go with that before I make a request to the court. Mr. Kirkpatrick, are you still yes, sir. Are you still using fentanyl?
Yes.
Okay. When was the last time you used?
Yesterday.
Okay. Your Honor, we would ask that Mr. Kirkpatrick provide a clean UA before we have face-to-face due to the nature of the fentanyl and transference. If we could get that before face-to-face visits start. Virtual we're good with, but if we can hold off on the face-to-face till we know that he's not using, the kids won't be in danger on anything.
That's totally fine. I plan on entering treatment tomorrow. And I would also ask that the same thing be implemented for Lorna Kirkpatrick, that she pass the UA, because she hasn't passed one in months and months and months. And I have the same reason. We have the same reasons about each other to believe that the other one's using. So I would just ask that the same thing, that she pass a UA or hair follicle before she's allowed to see the kids face to face directly.
Fair enough.
In Your Honor, I was going to move that direction next. I wanted to start with Mr. Kirkpatrick first on that.
So we're going to have a negative UA before we have any, face-to-face in-person contact with the children. And in the interim, I will allow grandparents to have that in-person visitation. Parents can have some virtual contact, but I am going to allow St. Francis to set up some kind of in-person visitation with paternal and maternal.
May I ask, I live in Kentucky, and I'll be coming back sometime, but if there's visitation available in the next few months, I would love to have virtual visitation. I think my grandson, my 6-year-old grandson, would really want that.
Okay, I'll let St. Francis set that up with you all, and and if you're going to be in town, then we can set something up for you to have actual face-to-face. But I want the children to continue to have that connection to family.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Mr. Kirkpatrick, may I ask, are you, just for clarity, you're going into treatment, you said tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Are you looking at 30-day, 60-day, 90-day? What kind of treatment are you looking at?
Like 30-day treatment.
Okay.
And then go into like sober living afterwards and getting a job so I can start making some money again for these boys when I do eventually get them back.
Okay.
May I ask what treatment is being entered tomorrow? Not like location or anything, but like a general name so that we know where you'll be.
I mean, I don't mind doing that. I'm going into the pavilion for the first 5 days of detox, and then I'll be going to Serenity in Abilene.
Okay. So you'll start that tomorrow then, right? You're going to surrender tomorrow to the detox process and then you'll be moving on from there.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Kirkpatrick, I wish you the best of luck. And you know, I would think the single biggest motivation you would have right now is these two kiddos.
Yes, ma'am.
So do it for yourself, but you got to do it for them too.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'll let the department and St. Francis schedule drug screenings and let you know, obviously we got to deal with being out of state with Ms. Kirkpatrick, and so I'll let you all take care of those details. So I will find that the evidence is sufficient to name the Department of Family and Protective Services as temporary managing conservator of both children. I will expect parents to work services, and we'll talk more about that at our next hearing, but certainly encourage them to work on sobriety as the first and foremost endeavor. I find that it would be a continuing danger to send the children to either home at this point in time. And I do find that the department used reasonable efforts, more than reasonable efforts, to work with the family and to avoid the legal removal of the children. And unfortunately, we are here now. So let's look to the future and, you know, try to get the train back on the tracks.
Your Honor, as far as the drug screen with Mr. Kirkpatrick, I know he's going into treatment tomorrow. Can we have an order that he do that today so we at least have a baseline for when he comes out of treatment?
Yeah, you'll need to be there before 4 o'clock today.
Where do I go?
At the pavilion.
Duncan. It's Care Express. It's
Okay.
on Ross. It's on Ross Osage.
Okay. Yeah.
And when the court says to be there by 4, trust me, be there by 2.
Yes,
Because
sir.
sometimes they have a line, and I'm guessing that whoever sends the paperwork can have it there by 2 o'clock today, Judge. I think.
Sure they can.
I just sent an email to have that sent over, to have that approved. Once it's approved by our director, which happens pretty quickly, we'll get that over, and I'll inform Duncan that it's there as soon as we get it there. So he's not waiting.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
And just so you know, the last time I went to UA, they turned me down because they didn't have a mail there. So if we can request that they have a mail there, because they're observed and they didn't have a mail to observe me take the UA that I went for last. And then I took the hair follicle the next day, but they didn't have a mail there that could watch me take the test. So if y'all need it today, we need to make sure there's a mail there to observe it.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, then I'll see you all back on December 21st for our status hearing. That'll be on a 9 o'clock docket. Obviously, with Mom in Oklahoma, we're going to continue to do these by Zoom so she can participate. And so I just wish parents, you know, the very best in the next 30 days and obviously beyond that. But I think you all will find that if you will work with me, I will work with you. So best of luck, and I'll see you back in December.
Your Honor, may I, what the plan will be for my client's UA, how they want that submitted, because since she is in Oklahoma.
Your Honor, we can take care of that. We do contract with people in Oklahoma. I just need to know what town she's closest to.
Lorna, what town is closest? Are you in a small town or are you in a major town?
I'm in Norman, Oklahoma.
Okay, so that should be one that, let me know, Tippy, if you don't find one there, and I will get you something else.
Yes, ma'am. Should be no problem.
Sorry about that, Judge.
No problem. Okay, thank you all very much. For our final in this matter, we're conducting this through Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement of the parties. We're live streaming, and Ms. Taylor is making our record. Okay, we'll take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Present, ready, Your Honor.
Bill Jackson on behalf of the mother, Brittany Jacobson. I'm present. I don't see her in this hearing, Judge. Is she in a waiting room?
I have someone labeled Brittany Perez with DFPS.
She's my investigator on another case, Your Honor.
Okay. So I do not have her in the waiting room, Mr. Jackson.
Okay. All right, Your Honor. I'm ready.
Stacy Zabala on behalf of Lucas.
Okay. All right, sir, you may proceed.
First, I'd call Melissa Ponce. And how are you familiar with that case?
I was assigned that case when it came in.
In the initial investigation?
Yes, sir.
How did the department become involved in this case?
On March the 10th, 2022, we had received a report with the allegations of methamphetamines used by the mother, Brittany Jacobson. And at the time, she was the primary caregiver for Lucas.
Okay. Just off the front, did you know who the dad was at that time?
No, I did not.
Okay. And to get this out of the way, was mom married at the time or an ex-husband? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay. But he was ruled out by paternity testing prior, right?
That's my understanding.
Okay. And Your Honor, court doesn't know this, but just for the record, we did an interlocutory order of termination on the dad that was found to be dad by paternity testing, Casey Samuelson, back in May. He did a voluntary relinquishment, so that was proven up, and a order of termination, interlocutory order has been filed with the court. So, Ms. Ponce, were you able to make contact with the mother when you started investigating this case?
I was not.
Okay. Did you eventually make contact with her?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And when was that?
On May the 9th, 2022.
Okay. Did you originally, were you able to have I believe, a phone conversation in March 14th?
Yes, okay. I was, and she did not answer the phone call after she figured out who I was.
Okay. Prior to her hanging up on the phone call, did she notify that she had not had the kid in her possession for a little while, but then did?
That's correct.
Okay. And she had picked the child up from where?
From her parents.
From her parents. Okay. Did she state where she was living at that time?
She did not.
Okay. Was she at one time moving from hotel to hotel?
That was my understanding, is that's what was going on.
Okay. And that was in March of 22, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then you said you made contact with her again. When was that?
On May the 9th.
Okay. So from March until May, you were unsuccessful in locating her?
That's correct.
Did she refuse or not answer any phone calls? Did you have what you believe was a current phone number?
That was the only phone number I had, and she was not maintaining contact, and I couldn't find her.
Okay. So in May, where were you able to make contact?
It was at one of her friend's house, Jennifer Flores, I believe is her name, and she and the child were staying there.
Okay. Were you able to go meet with mom face to face at that time?
Yes, sir.
And you said she was staying with who?
I believe her name is Jennifer Flores.
Okay. Was Miss Flores there when you contacted mom?
Initially, yes.
Were there any issues with mom and a child staying in that home?
There was Jennifer had some stipulations to her probation.
Okay. And Jennifer and mom both told you that she had stipulations on this? That's
correct.
Okay. And was this in the same conversation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask to admit exhibit number 3. It is the order of deferred adjudication for Jennifer Flores that states she's not allowed to be around any children younger than 15.
Objection.
All right, petitioners, exhibit 3 will be admitted.
Thank you,
Excuse me.
What was the plan going forward once you, let me back up a second, I apologize. Did you ask mom about drug use?
Yes, I did.
And did she admit or deny drug use?
She denied using any type of drug.
Did she agree to a drug screen?
She agreed to an oral cheek swab.
Okay. After that, what was the game plan going forward with mom?
After that, we waited for the results to come in, and they did come in on May the 12th, 2022, and it was positive for meth and amphetamines.
And where was mom staying at that time?
The same place with Jennifer.
Okay. Was she staying in the house or did she stay in a back house?
She was staying in a supposedly back house.
Okay. Did you confront mom about the drug screens?
I did.
And what did you observe as mom's behavior that day that you spoke to her about this?
She was very erratic. Her behavior was, back and forth. She could not put sentences together. She had a flat effect. And she was not, I was asking for a possible placement, and she was not able to come up with a possible placement for the kiddo.
Okay. Did you call any family members that you knew of as far as possibility of placement?
I believe she attempted to contact her grandmother, and then I had already at some point spoke to her parents, and her parents were not willing to be placement for her kid.
Okay. And at the time, we were not aware of whether, I believe it was her estranged husband was the father at that time. Did you speak to him about this?
At that time, she did call him as well, and then I guess there was some other relatives on that side that she had contacted, and they all refused to be placement.
And so at that time, due to the positive drug screen for methamphetamines and no placements, and mom staying at a residence where that person was on probation, not allowed to be around children under 15, was it determination made to ask for removal of the child?
Yes, that's correct.
And we were granted removal of that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What happened after that? Did you have more contact with mom after the removal?
No, I did not.
Did you try to get up with mom to go over the paperwork and to give her options on where this would be going?
Yes.
Okay. Did Ms. Flores kick her out of that home that she had been staying in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know where she moved to at that point?
No, I did not.
So after the removal, did you have any other personal contact with Brittany?
No, I did not.
Okay. So up until you went off the case after the adversary hearing, no other contact with mom, weren't able to go over paperwork with her?
No, sir.
Do you believe that it was in the best interest of the child to remove the child?
Yes, sir.
Where was the child placed? I know we couldn't find any family. Where was the child placed?
He was placed in a foster care.
Okay. Do you have any other information on the child that was how did the child do in the foster care when it was first placed?
He had seemed to be doing okay. So, as far as whenever I had the case, I know that there was a pending hair follicle, but I don't know what the results were.
Okay. All right. I'll pass the witness, Sharon.
All right, Mr. Jackson, any questions?
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Sabella?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Trout, anything further of this witness?
Nothing further of this witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Counsel, any objection to me releasing her at this time?
No objection.
No
No
objection.
objection.
All right, ma'am. Thank you so much. You are free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, you can call your next witness.
Next, I call Courtney Brown, Your Honor. And how are you familiar with that case?
I was the worker that was initially assigned this case back in May of 2022.
What is, you as a caseworker on these type of cases, what is your first steps when you get involved in a case?
I try to reach out to the placement of the child and have a visit with the child, and then also with the parents.
Okay. Were you able to go see the child?
Yes.
And how was he doing?
He was at the foster home that Ms. Ponce had mentioned. At that time, he was doing well overall. I know eventually those behaviors kind of escalated and he was discharged from that foster home. But overall, when I saw him initially, he was doing well.
And where is he now?
He's at a foster home in the Houston area.
Okay. How is he doing?
We still struggle with some of our behaviors, but he is on medications that seem to help with that. And it continues to improve. He's doing well in the home and in school.
Okay. And then you said you try to meet with the parents, is that correct?
Yes. So I did reach out to the alleged father, Jason Jacobson, when I got the case. He did submit to doing the DNA testing and he was ruled out as the father. Sure. And then we stumbled upon Casey Samuelson and he agreed to do the DNA testing and was proven to be the dad.
Okay.
At that time, I had trouble reaching Brittany from May onward. I didn't have contact with her until September of 2022.
Okay. Once you had contact with her, what were your steps?
So I had contact with her because she was arrested and I went and visited her in Gray County. She met with me, we discussed her service plan and she signed her service plan. She was arrested on drug charges at that time.
Okay. And you mentioned service plans. Can you tell us what those are?
So those are the resources and services that are available to the parents to help them get control of their life back. And then eventually our goal is to return the child to their parent once they've completed that. And they are tailored to the areas that the parent needs help.
Okay. So they are one of the tools that St. Francis uses in order to work toward reunification with parents.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is you said that you were able to go over the service plans with mom?
Yes.
And did mom sign the service plans?
She did.
And so she was under understanding of what steps she would have to go through.
Yes.
Did you see what I submitted as exhibit number 1?
Yes, it was her service plan.
What type of services was mom required to do?
So we had an OSAR screening, counseling, parenting, submitting to the drug screens when asked, and then just mostly staying in communication with me. I believe there was initially some support groups for domestic violence victims and things like that. Brittany told me that she no longer needed that, but that was in the initial one that she signed.
Okay. And these were the payment plans of service were made in order of the court also.
Yes.
What, sir, did mom complete any of her services?
She completed the OSAR, and an inpatient outpatient was recommended. Other than that, that's the only one that she's completed. She has done a few UA and hair follicle screens.
Okay. Did she go to the inpatient or outpatient? Did you know?
She did. In June, she did check her. She was able to get into Synacor here in Amarillo, but she checked herself out after 5 days.
Okay. So, and as far as you know, she has not gone back and completed a program.
That's correct.
Okay. Was mom recommended to go to Padre program for parenting?
She was.
Did she complete that?
She did not.
Was she asked to complete a physical exam?
She was.
Did she do that?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you know if mom has joined any type of support groups?
Not to my knowledge.
And you said she's done a few drug screens?
Yes.
Have those kind of been sporadic, or do you try to send her every month, or at least notify her to go every month, or how does that work?
Yes. So I try to do a UA every month and then a hair follicle every 3 months. But they are sporadic.
What is your contact with mom like at this time?
I have not had contact with Brittany since August.
Okay. And that is when she last drug screen for you?
That's correct.
Okay. And I noticed just in your report, there were drug screens in May and then August again. You said she checked into Synacor for 5 days in June?
Yes.
But other than that, between May and August, did you have contact with her?
Not consistent contact, no. I know she had issues with a cell phone number that lasted very long, but no, I didn't have consistent contact with her.
Okay. Was mom required to do a psychosocial?
Yes.
Did she do that?
She did not.
Did mom was she asked to do rational behavior?
She was.
And did she complete her rational behavior?
No.
Okay. But the authorizations for these services were done and were sent to mom, whether she received them, but were sent to mom.
Yes, that's correct.
And on these type of services, they either were started and never finished or never got set up.
That's correct.
Do you know where mom is now?
I do not.
Has mom had constant contact or any type of visitations with Lucas?
We had virtual visits set up. I believe she had one visit early in May, and then she hasn't had contact with Lucas since then.
And early in May, I know this case started in 22. Are we talking May of 22 or May of 23?
May of 23.
Okay. So she did have a visit up until 23, but in the last, 6 months or so, 5 or 6 months, no contact?
That's correct.
Has mom reached out to try to get visitations?
She has not.
And the child has been in care for longer than 6 months?
Yes.
Was mom provided resources in order to gain visitations with the child and to visit?
Yes.
And also resources to work toward reunification?
Yes.
And mom has not completed those resources?
That's correct.
Do you believe that at this time that mom can provide, in your opinion of what your contact with mom and sporadic conversations, that mom can provide a stable home environment for the child?
I do not believe that, no.
Do you have any, have you had any notification or any on where mom could be living or where she is right now?
I've had conflicting messages relayed to me. I believe she told her parents that she was in Santa Fe at one time. But she hair follicled or she screened for me in August, and she did that here in Amarillo. So I would assume she's here in Amarillo, but I'm not sure.
Okay. And conversation with parents, do her parents know where she is?
They do not.
Okay. Does she contact her parents regularly or sporadic?
I believe it's also sporadically. She has another child who is not in CPS care that she does have visitation for. It was my understanding that she hasn't seen that child in 3 months or so.
But your best guess is that she is somewhere around Amarillo. We just can't locate her.
That's correct.
Is the department asking, St. Francis asking today for termination of the parental rights based upon failure to work service plans, constructive abandonment?
Yes.
And do you believe that's in the best interest of the child?
I do.
Are you also asking that the court make the interlocutory order of termination that was signed on June 9th of 2023 as to the dad, Russell Samuelson, a final order also?
Yes.
Based upon his affidavit of voluntary relinquishment?
Yes.
And do you believe that's in the best interest of the child?
I do.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Jackson, any questions?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Brown, I want to go over some of the services with you that you testified to or about. In regard to the Padre program, I know that the class wasn't finished, but she did sign up for that class and attempted to go to several classes, did she not?
She did sign up and she did attend, but then she stopped attending, and then she was discharged from the program whenever she went MIA from the Senate Corps.
Okay. And you said in your report that, to your knowledge, that she hadn't joined any support groups at this time, but really you couldn't testify to that one way or the other, could you?
That's true. Yes, she hasn't been in contact to keep me up to date with that.
Yes, ma'am. And on the OSAR, she completed that according to your testimony.
Yes.
And I think that she was referred to the Padre program and inpatient and then outpatient services through Senecor. You testified that she was there and checked herself out 5 days later.
Yes.
Did she tell you her reasons for checking out?
She did not.
Okay. Did you ask her that?
I did.
Okay. Also, you haven't, I think that you had said that or testified that she had a UA drug screen in May of 2023 and a hair follicle in August of 2023. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Were both of those negative?
Yes, the one in August was negative.
Okay. All right. And on the rational behavior class, I think you said that the authorizations have been completed, but she hadn't completed the service at this time. Do you know whether she'd set a date to attend that or not?
The issue we had was the provider could not get a hold of her. And I tried to update them with all of the phone numbers that she had gone through, but I don't think anybody was actually able to reach her because of that.
Okay. And then finally, refresh my memory, if you would, please, Ms. Brown. You had, when was the last time that you said that you had seen or had contact with Brittany?
When she hair follicled for me in August, I did message her and tell her to do that, and she did it. So she got my communication, but she never responded to me in person or officially.
Okay. And so throughout this case then, I mean, you haven't been around her. I mean, what contact have you had with her before August?
Over the phone. We would try to set a time to meet, and she wouldn't answer her phone or show up.
Okay. And so you haven't seen where she resides, correct?
I've been to the address that she gave us at the final hearing in May, but nobody ever answered the door. Okay.
And so I guess the point that I'm getting at, Ms. Brown, is that you had testified that you don't know, or I'm sorry, strike that. You had testified that she can't provide a stable environment. But how do you know that if you haven't been able to see it or see her?
That is a good point. I guess I had testified that because if she could provide that, I don't know why she wouldn't
Yes, ma'am.
Allow me in there.
Yes, ma'am. And at the last hearing that we had in September, I believe it's September the 5th, at that time, Lucas was not in a long-term placement. Is his current placement in Houston, is that a long-term placement?
It's a foster placement. He's been there since the summer of 2022. it wouldn't necessarily be a long-term placement. I mean, the foster parent is willing to keep him long-term, but we haven't explored that as a long-term placement necessarily.
Okay. To your knowledge, is there anybody in the wings anywhere that's waiting to adopt this child?
None in the family, no, sir.
Okay. All right. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Zavala.
Ms. Brown, some of the problems that Lucas was experiencing that really started to manifest in the first placement, would you agree he was quick to anger?
Yes.
That he was destructive of property and physically aggressive with people?
Yes.
Also physically aggressive towards animals?
Yes.
And his behavior became so out of control that he could not stay at the placement he was in originally.
That's correct.
Is he currently in what's considered a therapeutic foster home?
He is.
And would you agree he's still struggling with those issues, but making some progress?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Throughout this entire case, you've been the caseworker throughout this entire part of the case, correct?
That's correct.
Has your contact information ever changed?
No, ma'am.
And Brittany had that contact information?
That's correct.
Was Brittany aware of where your physical office is located?
She was.
Throughout the case, did you have regular contact with Brittany's parents?
Yes.
And in fact, Lucas was having some visitation with them.
Yes, he still does.
But throughout this whole case, we've consistently checked in with them about the possibility of placement, and they are not able to be placement at this time.
That's correct.
Okay. And have indicated that they likely will not ever be able to be placement.
That's correct.
And those grandparents, Brittany's own parents, have all of your contact information.
Yes.
And they periodically have contact with Brittany.
Yes, I believe so.
If Brittany had lost your contact information, your phone number, couldn't remember where the physical address of St. Francis was, that's all information that her own parents could provide her, correct?
That's correct.
Or in fact, she could just simply look up.
Yes, that's correct.
This is our second final hearing, correct?
Yes.
Or at least second attempt at a final hearing. So was Brittany aware that we were working towards termination unless she finished these services and did what she needed to?
Yes, ma'am.
Was Brittany aware of the stated goals in the case?
She was.
When she did respond to you on her phone, she did respond back in August?
She didn't respond with a message, but she did go do what I asked.
Okay. And then she just simply stopped responding to your calls or text?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know, does her phone still work, and she just doesn't answer, or do you get some sort of message that says the phone's not working?
I get an automated message. So I don't know if the number I have is her current one any longer or not.
That you said that she had contact with Lucas in May. Was that an in-person or virtual visit?
It was a virtual visit, and his therapist was also present.
Why did those visits stop?
Because Brittany didn't maintain contact with me.
So it wasn't that St. Francis stopped her from having contact. She just stopped checking in to be able to set up those visits.
That's correct.
She knew he was in care. She knew he couldn't go to family. She knew he was struggling, and she knew how to reach you.
That's correct.
And she didn't contact you.
Yes, ma'am.
She had a copy of her family plan?
Yes, ma'am.
So she knew what she needed to be working on?
Yes, ma'am.
I pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Trout, anything further of this witness?
I just sent out an email of another exhibit I forgot to send everybody, so I wanted to give everybody a chance to look at that real quick. I don't know if everybody got it yet.
Okay.
Judge, could I be excused to run over to my computer right quick and look at that?
Absolutely, sir.
And Joel, I sent it to Victoria also.
Any objection, counsel?
No objection, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to Exhibit 4 as hearsay. It is under a business records affidavit, but it still calls for hearsay.
Okay. I'll overrule the objection that the document has been submitted as under a business records affidavit. I won't allow any of the witnesses that have been sworn in today to testify or to interpret it in any manner. The document just speaks for itself. So they can read what the document says, but I'm not going to allow any interpretation of it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So Exhibit 4 is admitted.
Thank you, Honor. Ms. Brown, were you aware that you heard Ms. Ponce testify earlier that a hair follicle had been pending on the child? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And were you aware that drug screen came back positive?
I was.
Your Honor, I object to that line of question. That calls for hearsay.
All right. Same ruling. She's just simply, she's reading from the document itself. She's not interpreting the document. It says what it says. So I'll overrule.
And Ms. Brown, is the department also asking for termination as to the parental rights of mothers based upon the child while in the mother's care and originally removed was tested positive for methamphetamines?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, any further questions?
Briefly, Ms. Brown, did you reach out to Brittany to notify her of this hearing today?
I did.
And how did you do that? Did you do it via text, email?
I did a phone call. I tried a phone call, a text, and I also found her on social media and sent her a message there.
Okay. Which social media platform?
Facebook.
Okay. All right. Pass the witness.
All right. Mr. Trout, anything further?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Any further witnesses?
No further witnesses would rest, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Zavala, do you have a recommendation to make?
I do, Your Honor. It is my recommendation that it's in Lucas's best interest for the parental rights of Brittany Jacobson to be terminated today, as well as the father who's already been addressed in the interlocutory order.
All right. At this time, then I do find by clear and convincing evidence that it is in the best interest of the child, Lucas, to make the interlocutory order of termination on Mr. Samuelson a final order. I find by clear and convincing evidence it's in the best interest of the child to terminate the parental rights of Brittany Jacobson to Lucas based on Texas Family Code 161.001 B1, the DE, N and O grounds, and the best interest of the child under 161.001 B2. I will name the Department of Family and Protective Services as permanent managing conservator, and I will continue the child's current placement. At this time, I'll dismiss Mr. Jackson from representation of Ms. Jacobson after the de novo and appellate timeframes expire. So, Mr. Jackson, if you're instructed to file a notice of appeal, please hold off on doing that until a final order is signed and adopted by the referring court.
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously, Ms. Zavala will remain in the case as the child's attorney and guardian ad litem. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you all very much. I appreciate your patience and waiting on us. I'm so sorry.
So, thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Shelton would
See you
like
later,
to do
and we will move
get the
straight into
paperwork in. He was a little confused on how that worked since he has an attorney representing another case. So he would like to get his paperwork in and get a court-appointed attorney in another date.
Okay. As soon as Ms. Archer comes back in, we'll discuss a date for a reset. I visited with him just briefly, and I had a feeling he was kind of confused about that. So
yes, ma'am. Ms. Perez, if you could go ahead and send paperwork and everything again, if you haven't already, but go ahead and get that over to Dad so he can get those back to you.
Okay. Cameron, would you like to either pick them up from the office, or would you like me to email them to your email that I sent the link to?
You can just email it to me and I'll get it filled out.
Okay.
November 16th. And I think probably about 2:15.
And Judge, is mom still here? I'm not seeing her on my screen.
She might be stuck in the breakout room.
If we're going to reset, that kind of may change what mom wants to do then, because she wanted to try to get the child back today. But if we have to reset till then, she may agree to drug test or whatever.
Okay,
if that would help her.
Ms. Sangster, we're going to have to reset the case. Mr. Shelton is wanting to have his attorney represent him. He thought that he would automatically get the same attorney that he has in another case, and it doesn't quite work that way. So he's going to have to fill out some paperwork and submit to me. So we were talking about resetting this to November 16th, which is a week from this Thursday.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
So, Ms. Archer, I don't know if you and Mr. Trout need to, y'all can talk about, I suppose, whatever you need to, but he does have the right to have an attorney represent him. So, Natalie, are you good on the 16th about 2:15?
I am.
Okay. All right, then. Okay, then Mr. Shelton, get that paperwork filled out and get it either back to the caseworker or to my office as quickly as you can. And it's probably best that you get it back to Ms. Perez, and then she'll email it to Ms. Katie, my coordinator. And then we'll reset to November 16th at 2:15.
Alrighty, I'll have it done as soon as possible.
Okay.
And Judge,
All right.
I have emailed Mr. Nowak to make sure he's available. I do have him for another hearing that afternoon. So I'm hoping he'll be available at 2:15. I don't see why he wouldn't be, but I'll let everybody know if it doesn't work for him.
Okay. All right. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. And Judge, if Natalie and I need to talk real quick, if she needs, if I can speak to her real
Today
quick.
on our reset date
Sure.
for our adversary hearing, we originally had this set for October 26th. Ms. Alvarez appeared and signed an agreed order at our first setting. However, Mr. Alvarez appeared and said that he wanted an attorney. He was going to submit that paperwork to the court, and we have not received anything yet. So we'll go ahead and take announcements, and then I'll just follow up with the department to see if he ever submitted that paperwork to them.
Yes, ma'am. Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. We're present, ready, Your Honor.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of Jacob, here and ready.
Okay, so did the department ever get any paperwork from Mr. Alvarez?
Ms. Watson?
No, Your Honor, we did not.
Okay. And have you had any contact with him or forward the link today or make sure he had the link?
Yes, ma'am. I sent it to both Mr. and Mrs. Alvarez.
Okay. All right, then, Mr. Trout. Both parents, you say, have been served. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Dad was served on 10/18 and mom was served on 10/30 personally.
Okay. All right, then. You can call your first witness.
We call Sasha Watson. How are you familiar with that case?
I have been the investigation worker since we started the case.
How did the department become involved in this case?
We received a report regarding neglectful supervision as our child is positive for methamphetamines upon his birth.
And were you able to go to the hospital and see the child and mother?
Yes, sir.
And when did you do that?
I made that initial contact with baby on October 12th, and I attempted my, that would have been November 12th. We were moved on October 12th. My initial contact was September 12th with baby. I initiated contact with mother, but she did not want to speak with me then and shooed me away.
Okay. When you spoke to mom, you said she didn't want to speak to you. Did she make any statements as far as why?
No, sir. At that time, she did not. When making my second contact with her, when I was finally able to meet with her, she just stated that she didn't want to talk to anyone while she was at the hospital.
Okay. Did she state that she knew how this proceeded or went?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did she state that she knew how these cases proceed?
Yes, sir. I did walk her through the steps and try to convince her to speak with me at the hospital. And when she didn't want to, I did let her know that I would have to staff with legal and move forward in that manner.
Okay. And child's meconium came back positive?
Yes, sir.
And that was positive for what?
It was positive for methamphetamines. And I believe maybe marijuana. However, off the top of my head, I do not have that verbatim.
Okay. Was it methamphetamines and amphetamines?
Yes. Methamphetamines greater than 1,000, amphetamines 500 in that area range.
Okay, thank you. Does mom have prior CPS history?
Yes, she does.
Does she have a current active case?
Yes, she does.
In meeting with mom, did you find out who the dad was or possible dad?
To Jacob, mom, she is not 100% if Hector is the father. I did ask her if she was 100% sure, and she stated that she was not 100% sure.
Okay. And Hector Alvarez and mom, Ashley Alvarez, they're still legally married?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So he would be presumed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you been able to speak to Hector?
I've spoken with Hector a few times. Yes, sir.
Okay. Does he believe he's the dad or no?
He is not sure.
He's not sure. Does mom and dad still live together?
I don't believe that they do. Mom gave Hector's address when she was in the hospital. However, Hector says they do not live together. And mom did give me an address for her that was not the same as Hector's.
Okay. Has Hector been willing to drug screen for the department?
When asking him initially to screen, he stated that he would screen and he never did.
Okay. Have you discussed drug usage with mom? Have you been able to talk to her? Did she admit to any drug usage or not?
When speaking with her, she did report to me that she did use prior to knowing she was pregnant, and then also admitted that she had not used any since having Jacob.
Okay. Where is the child now?
He is still currently in his foster placement.
Okay. How is he doing?
He's doing well, according to my knowledge.
Has he had any issues from the positive birth that we know of?
No, sir. He was a little bit premature, and the only issues that the hospital reported that he was having was just normal premature issues.
And mom had preeclampsia on this birth?
I'm not 100% on that.
When was your last contact with mom?
My last contact with mom was October 20th, I believe.
Okay. And where was that, face to face, over the phone?
That was face to face.
Okay. And was this what was the nature of that contact?
We covered the bases. At that time, Jacob had already been removed. So we went over all of the court paperwork and removal paperwork, as well as the St. Francis worker that would be taking over the case. She was there and talked to mom about services and going ahead and starting her services.
Okay. And St. Francis worker we're talking about is Miss Cook that's here with us?
Yes, sir.
Did mom seem willing to work?
Yes, sir.
Services at the time. Have you tried to reach out to mom anymore since then?
She did reach out to me regarding some services she was trying to initiate. However, I did direct her to worker cook because they are over the services for the parents.
Okay. What about dad? Have you had him, when was your last contact with him?
My last contact with Hector was the day that we saw him in court.
Okay, so a week or so ago?
It was the 23rd.
2 weeks ago?
Yes, sir.
And he has not answered phone calls or reached back out to you, or if you tried to contact him?
I messaged him the court link and reminder of court, and he did not respond.
Have you reached out to him as far as the attorney paperwork? He had said he wanted one.
No, sir.
But you never received anything on that?
No, sir.
Have you been back by Dad's house to try to find him, or has he just not been available?
I have not went back out to his home. He pretty much works in Paducah, Texas, just about, I would say, probably 6 days a week. So he's not typically in the Amarillo area from what we've previously discussed.
Okay. And I may have asked you this already. Do you know where mom currently is?
I don't know where she currently is. I have an address that she gave me that I myself never went to because she met with me at the office instead.
Do you believe that it was in the best interest of the child to remove the child due to the positive drug screens?
Yes, sir.
And made reasonable efforts to try to check dad out to see, as a non-offending parent, to see if he would be able to be placement for the child, but he has not been cooperative at this time?
Yes, sir.
And do we have any, did they give you any names or any family members that we possibly could place with?
They did fill out the child caregiver resource form.
Okay. Have we looked into any of those people?
Those have gone to worker cook.
Okay. And I can call her in a minute and ask her, but as far as your investigation, you've reached out numerous times to mom. Kind of sporadic, but lately she has not been back in contact with you.
Correct. And when she did, I referred her to cook for her services.
Okay. Do you believe it's in the best interest of the child to remove?
Yes, sir.
I'll pass the witness, Sharon.
All right, Ms. Zavala.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Trout, anything further of this witness?
Not from Ms. Watson, Your Honor. I'd call Ms. Cook just so we can get some information if she's had any contact.
Okay.
And how are you familiar with that case?
Well, I was assigned that case because I do have the other sibling open active case as well.
So you have mom's active case?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you been able to get in contact with mom?
Yes.
When was your last contact with her?
I actually was just texting her before the hearing started.
Okay. Was she was aware of the hearing?
Yes.
Did she say whether she was trying to get on or no?
She said that she was going to get on. So that was the last I heard.
Okay. Have you had any other contact with mom?
Not since we saw her at the office when me and Miss Watson met with her.
Okay. Has she tried to reach out to starting services or had any attorney paperwork or anything like that for you?
Not the attorney paperwork, but she has, yes, started to set up services.
Okay. Dad, have you tried to reach out to Hector Alvarez?
Yes, I have.
Have you been able to get in touch with him?
I haven't since the date of the last court date on the 26th.
Okay. And you haven't received any attorney paperwork from him?
No, I have not.
Do you know whether he was aware of he was at the last one hearing for the reset date, but do you know whether he was planning to attend? You haven't heard?
I haven't heard.
Okay. I'll pass with the sheriff.
All right, Ms. Zavala.
Ms. Cook, Jacob is placed with his sister, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
His sister's case also involves drug use with mom. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
In light of Jacob testing positive for meth and the previous drug use, Would it be good for mom to have a clean UA before she has a visit with Jacob?
Yes, I would recommend that.
I pass the witness.
Okay, Mr. Trout, anything else?
Yes, ma'am. Kind of along those same lines, Ms. Cook. Presumed dad in this case, head driver, has not cooperated with a drug screen at this time either, has he?
No.
Your knowledge. Do you believe that it would also be in best interest to make sure we have a negative UA before face-to-face visits with dad?
I do.
Are there any type of visits? Have you tried to set up any type of visits, whether it's virtual or anything with them?
Yes. Not with dad. He hasn't been able to contact. Mom is supposed to have a visit with Jacob tomorrow.
And is that virtual?
It'll be in person.
But mom is not drug screened far since the birth of the child.
She did a hair follicle for me and it did come back negative. However, me and worker Watson did notice that she had just dyed her hair.
Good.
And she was supposed to do a UA that day and did not complete that.
Thank you. Your Honor, I would make the recommendation that no face-to-face until we get clean UAs. I understand that mom did have a negative hair follicle, but I would feel safer with a UA being negative before we had any face-to-face. And due to dad, I know dad works a lot and is out of town a lot, and that may contribute to the not cooperating, but he has been asked, I think, several times to drug screen for us and has yet to do it.
All right, anybody have anything further?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, does the department rest?
Department rest.
All right, Ms. Zavala, anything to present?
No witnesses, I would rest.
Okay, and a recommendation?
It is my recommendation that the department be named temporary managing conservator. I would second the request for a drug screen before any visits. He's little, he's already been exposed, and there's a long history, and I think it's important that we get that clean UA before face-to-face visits.
All right, thank you. All right, at this time, then, I do find the evidence is sufficient to name the Department of Family and Protective Services as the temporary managing conservators. We'll expect parents to work services. I find there's a continuing and ongoing danger to return the child home at this time, and that the department has exercised reasonable efforts to avoid the legal removal of the child. Department sought safety placements, and none were provided. Parents' lack of cooperation and involvement at this point in time, I think supports that it's in the child's best interest to name the department TMC. I will order that the parents have clean UAs before there are any in-person visits with the baby, particularly in light of the fact that there was prior exposure, child was premature, and we've got a history of drug abuse with parents, and so we'll get clean UAs before we start that. And I know mom's expecting to have a visit tomorrow, Ms. Cook, but you just tell her we've got to get a UA done. So if I'll order them both to go do a UA. We'll go ahead and court order it as soon as you can get in contact with them, and just let them know that having any visits are going to be contingent or face-to-face visits. Since we're springing this on mom kind of at the last minute, can we arrange maybe for a virtual where she can at least see the baby?
Yes, I'll try to get her to go before the visit, but if not, we can do a virtual.
Okay, I mean, we won't have any results back, so I think we can make tomorrow's visit a virtual visit, so at least she gets to see the baby. Okay.
Your Honor, I don't know if we want to go ahead and address it. I know there's been some speculation on whether dad, even though he's presumed because they're married, is actual dad. Do we want to go ahead and work on paternity testing, or do we want to wait till he comes back in and see if that's what we want?
I think we wait till he makes some request for that, and even then, it's a little bit problematic because they're married.
Yeah.
Whether or not we can get the Attorney General to do the testing is I don't know, do we have some special language that we feed to them when we have a presumed dad?
I don't know. We gotta go look at that. I do know in her other case, we didn't know about the marriage at that time, and somebody else was the dad in that case. So
Yeah. You know, since we know who he is and we know that they're married, and so, I mean, I think he is presumed, and of course, doesn't mean it doesn't mean another father could step up and say, hey, I think I'm the dad, but, and certainly that individual would have the right to have genetic testing, but I think let's just wait and see if it gets raised. Okay. All right, then. Appreciate y'all. Our next hearing is December 5th of 2023. Status hearing. That's on a 9 o'clock docket.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. Thank y'all. Everybody that's been with us all day. Thank you for a very long haul today.
Thank you. We're just getting primed up for Thursday.
Yeah. Afraid you're right.
Thank you, Sasha and Tori.